Shadow Treasurer Joe Hockey has visited the border, taking a tour of Charles Sturt University's Laguna campus. Mr. Hockey's characteristic charisma was on full show, holding a Q&A session and chatting with local students between appointments. But the man hoping to take Wayne Swan's job was at his most cutthroat when discussing Julia Gillard's leadership.
Julia Gillard is a lame duck leader, and the Labor Party is yet again going through another messy leadership round. Australia needs strong, decisive leadership from a government that is united and has a common cause. And look, Julia Gillard should just pull on a leadership battle with Kevin Rudd, have the matter resolved. Otherwise, it's quite clear she's going to remain a lame duck leader. Australia deserves better than a lame duck Prime Minister. We deserve strong leadership, we deserve strong direction. Anything Julia Gillard says today is immediately discounted by the electorate. In January, she said $34 million was going to deliver 300 new jobs at Ford. Yesterday, we hear that more than 440 jobs have gone at Ford. She said that the 1st of July would change the whole equation in relation to the carbon tax. Yet Julia Gillard hasn't yet been to one single business that is affected by the carbon tax, instead going to stage managed events around the place. That's not the way a Prime Minister should be. A Prime Minister should not be afraid of the people that she seeks to lead, whether they be inside the caucus or be outside the caucus. So we cannot afford to have a lame duck Prime Minister anymore. The Labor Party's got to resolve this unholy mess.
Mr. Hockey, do you believe she's going to be leading the party ahead of the federal election?
I don't think Labor believes that she's going to be leading the party to the next election. That's the problem. You've got a lame duck Prime Minister, a lame duck Deputy Prime Minister. No one's listening to them anymore, and the country is worse off because we need strong and decisive leadership at the moment. We're not going to get that until we have a general election. So if Julia Gillard can't resolve the problems within the Labor Party, she can either call on a leadership battle with Kevin Rudd or call an election. And frankly, Australians just want to have a general election, wherever they are.
How would a coalition government deal with the car industry and Ford?
Well, for a start, we wouldn't be writing out an unqualified cheque for $34 million to Ford. And if we were going to provide some form of industry assistance, which I have deep reservations about, then it would be so watertight that there has to be an outcome for the benefit of the nation. And losing 440 jobs at Ford is not to the benefit of the nation. I mean, it says everything about Labor that they write out a cheque for $34 million to Ford, promising more jobs, and Ford then lays off 440 people. It's all wrong, and it represents the very worst aspects of Labor's economic mismanagement.
Do you believe we're going to see a follow-on from some of those job losses in places like Ford in Melbourne in some of our regional areas?
Well, that's a matter for Ford, but all these job losses are further undermining business and consumer confidence. At the moment, people can't assess risk. They can't weigh up whether to take the risk of borrowing money and renovating their home or upgrading to a better home because they're worried about job security. And what further undermines business and consumer confidence is when the Prime Minister hands out taxpayers' money to businesses that then go and lay off people. I mean, it's just so obvious that these events are undermining business and consumer confidence, and the government is showing what an abject failure it is when it's unable to deal with these matters. Frankly, I just can't believe that on the 17th of January the Prime Minister stood in front of Ford workers and told them there were going to be more jobs created, and $34 million later and 6 months later 440 jobs are lost. 300 are created. It's a turnaround of over 700 jobs.
Tell us a little bit about, going into regional Victoria and New South Wales, tell us a little bit about what you're hearing from the people you're speaking to.
Well, there are variable levels of confidence, and most of them are on the dark side. I mean, I've been to Ballarat, Bendigo, Elmore, Benalla, Chiltern, and Albury and Wodonga in the last 3 days speaking to small business people. They're uncertain about the future. People are nervous about the flow-on impact of the carbon tax. They're worried about, in the farm sector, about a range of different things. They should not be worried about foreign investment in farming. I think we can have greater transparency there, but they should not worry about foreign investment in agriculture.
How do you ensure that? How do you ensure that transparency?
Well, I think we'll have more to say about that in the next few weeks when we release our policy in relation to foreign investment. But I'd say to you that we all need to have more information about the degree of foreign investment in agricultural land, but we should not be spooked. We need foreign investment in Australia. We're a population of around 22 million people in an island continent that desperately needs foreign investment. If there's no foreign investment in Australia, then there are not going to be the sorts of jobs created that are going to take advantage of the growth of Asia over the next 30 years.
Does that extend to foreign workers?
Well, where appropriate, foreign workers should be welcomed into areas, but I'd say this. It is a signature example of the incompetence of Labor that one of their own unions is out there trying to recruit foreign workers. And that says everything about the modern Labor Party. The union leaders rail against foreign workers, and then they're out there going to try and recruit them. So this just is a classic example of the hypocrisy of the union movement and the hypocrisy of the Labor Party. They railed against Gina Rinehart, and then they helped to facilitate Rinehart getting foreign workers. Union leaders lambasted the government for foreign workers. Now they're out there trying to recruit them. I mean, this just further undermines whatever is left of business and consumer confidence in this government. Well, we've been out to Edamoga Rail Interchange, which was a hugely impressive facility. What I love about it is it hasn't got government money in it. It's private sector money, and I love hearing those stories. I love hearing about business people taking a risk, having a go, making it work, forming a partnership, constructive partnership with the local council and the local community. They're the sorts of no-brainer infrastructure ideas that we need to get up and running in regional Australia to get maximum value out of the future. And that was one example here. It's great to see a number of local students coming to study at Charles Sturt. And look, the three key drivers of growth in regional Australia will be obviously mining, obviously agriculture, but equally education. And I think we're going to find over the next 50 years that education has a huge role to play in the development of regional Australia. And in turn, that education, that service sector, is going to bring people to regional Australia that might not necessarily be attracted to regional Australia. And that includes doctors and medical specialists, allied health professionals, but also people engaged in other activities from engineering right through to architecture and veterinary services.